the old witch that terrorized the whole community. So now I will take you back to ancient times. Remember, this is a true story. In ancient times, one thing you know is that people that practice witchcraft never come out in public to actually boast about it, because if you do, you were going to be targeted. You know how they used to treat witches and wizards in those days. So let's go to this ancient kingdom where a lot of people in that kingdom practiced witchcraft, but they kind of hid it. Even when people will accuse them of being witches and wizards, they will come out crying, throwing themselves on the floor, pretending that they are not, but there are evidence to prove that they are. In that same kingdom lived this old woman that was very skinny and tall. Story had it that when this woman was growing up, she was being laughed at because she was extremely tall. Her height was almost abnormal. There were tall people in that kingdom, tall women. Of course, there were tall men too, but there were several tall women. But most of the tall women in this kingdom actually were a little bit chubby. So people kind of looked at them as, okay, your height and your chubbiness kind of blend all together. But because this particular woman was so skinny and taller than all these other women, when she's walking in the community, you will see her head is, she needs to bend to get into most of the houses. Her head is even higher than some of the houses. So that made people to make fun of her. And from what we heard, that led to no man wanting to approach her in marriage. So from a very early age, this woman was kind of isolated from everyone else. And most people believe that that somehow made her to become this very rude and arrogant person, didn't have mercy. For example, when children will be playing outside, playing with their footballs, or, just playing those games, throwing stones, if any stone gets close to this woman's hut, those children were in trouble. She didn't have any issues lifting her hands and punishing these children. So from a very early age, people called her a witch, okay, because of how she behaved, not necessarily because they've seen her, you know, carrying out or performing rituals. But then they said, fast forward to when this woman was middle aged, she started behaving very strange because all her relatives started dying suddenly. And people could put two and two together to now find out that she was indeed a witch. The name they were calling her because of her behavior, because of her character, her not having love for children. She's always isolating herself. You're either seeing her going to the farm or she's coming back from the farm. She never smiles. She always wears dark clothing. She always behaves very weird. If there is nothing for her to do outside, she's always inside her hut. So when her family members, her relatives started dying, and this woman was still alive. She lived to a great old age and she was very, very strong. Now, it got to the point where after all her family members, she was the only person alive, from distant relatives to close relatives. She was the only living person in their lineage, in their family. Tongues kept wagging, but at this point, people were now afraid of her because they knew that she was using dark powers. She was using dark magic. So everybody in the village kind of avoided her even more. Now, not because she was this skinny, lanky, not smiling, rude, mean woman, but now because people feel like she is actually donating or sacrificing her family members to give herself longer life, and youthful looks, because her age, when you see her, you could never be able to guess this woman's real age. So it got to the point where this woman knew that people in the community were actually talking about her, and then she decided whenever she has any problem with someone, she will make sure to torment and frustrate that person's life. So people that had issues with her, you will see them not being able to sleep in their homes at night, complaining about when they try to sleep, there is like something or someone that nobody could see coming into their rooms and sitting on their chest. Like that's how it feels like when a heavy load or something is dropped on you, where you are struggling to move but you cannot move. So over time, people started noticing that every time you have a squabble with this woman, that is exactly what will happen. This woman is going to come and actually press you at night, but not physically walk into your home, but she comes in. And this kept happening over and over and over. So when this woman, it got to a point where when this woman is walking on the road, everybody avoids her. Nobody wants to go close to her. Nobody wants to stay where she is because she would most definitely attack you for the smallest things that will happen, for the smallest reasons, she is going to attack. So she kept on this behavior until one day, all of a sudden, she passed. When this woman passed, there was jubilation in the village. Mind you, she was not the only witch or wizard in this village. There were several of them doing wicked stuff, but she was very bold, doing her own, not hiding it. If you dare have a quarrel with her, her final words to you will be, "You will see." Or she will say to you, "I will show you." And most people will call her witch during their quarrels, and she will say to them, "I will show you how witches behave." And you will see these people, some people moving out of the village in general, just to avoid the wrath of this woman. So when she passed, everybody was happy. But then the day this woman passed on, the type of rain that reigned in this ancient kingdom, the type of storm, is one that they have not seen. It rained for several days with thunderstorms and floodings and everything. Like you could see that it seemed like Mother Nature was angry, or was it a cleansing? Some people called it cleansing. Some people said it's the spirit of the woman that was angry. It rained and thunderstorms and everything, and then it got to the point where they would start planning for her funeral. Nobody wanted to take part. Now, remind you, according to story, that she has already used all her family members for sacrifice. So now there were no family members to plan for the funeral rites and everything. So now it was in the position for the community, the elders, to come together and decide how they were going to organize a funeral. Doesn't matter if it's going to be a small one, but do something and lay her to rest so they can close that chapter. So they decided they were going to hold a small funeral for this lady, but they knew it was not going to be an easy one because this was a woman that worked with several stuff. So going even into her home to clear up things and start the preparation was a huge hassle. But at some point, they picked up courage, went in and started preparing this woman for the funeral. The day of her funeral, normally how they used to do funerals then, they would do the waykeeping with the person lying in state till the next morning, and then they lower the person. But that night when the funeral was going on, the rain and this thunderstorm started, and several people in the community claimed to have seen this woman moving around. One of the story that really got people shaking was the people that were coming for the funeral from the neighboring community. There are some people that just loved events. Anywhere they see free food and free drinks. So they would travel from communities to communities looking for where funerals are being held. So they would have free drinks, free food, and just dance. So people that were coming from far community outside claimed to have met this woman. Now, mind you, they did not know who died They were just going to have fun. But their story was on their way coming. Remember, you have to move through this bush part. So on their way coming, they encountered this woman. Wait for the part 2.